Hello and welcome back to the Spicy Therapist Couch. I'm your host, Lauren Violet, and today I am super excited to be joined by Australia's #1 pleasure toy queen, the absolutely amazing and beautiful Patricia. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you so much for this beautiful welcoming. I'm so excited to be on your podcast.
I'm excited to have you. Before we get started, can you start by just sharing a little bit with everyone about who you are and how you be in the world and what you do and what you're here for?
I am also known as the pleasure and toy queen, and that is because I have got over 250 pleasure toys and kinky tools now in my treasury collection. I have started to review them when I started my Spicy OnlyFans page, and it has led me to embrace more within my sexuality, but also to step up and help others to empower them, inspire them. So within like self-love, fitness, nutrition, yoga, meditation, Tantra. So I've gone through like the last few years a huge, massive transformation when I left a DV situation, and it's just been amazing since. And yeah, I'm taking everyone along my journey to help them and empower them. And yeah, it's a holistic approach and I'm all here for it. So
I love that. And like so beautifully there, you spoke into like you shared your journey, and that empowers people. And one of my favorite quotes is that like our mess is our medicine. And I just love that because that's what you've done. You've shared, your journey, the mess and all, the mess and the beauty. And it's been medicine for others to witness and learn from and be inspired by.
yeah, basically turning pain into power. This is where I'm currently at, especially because I'm embracing that queen archetype now from myself as well. I'm stepping really into that confident femme power, because I've been that person who's been a people pleaser, who said yes even if she meant no, who wanted to fit in. But now I'm stepping into like, no, I desire something else and I'm going for that. And living by example as a role model, this is how you inspire and empower others. So this is like kind of a gift of mine, is sharing my journey, and through that I can help others.
Absolutely. I resonate with all of that. What you've said so far, like, is very similar to my journey. And even you mentioned leaving a DV situation, right? In a DV situation, we're not in our power. And
No.
someone is overtly trying to take it from us, and they're trying to have power over us, and they're violating all of our rights as a human being. And that journey back to reclaiming our power and standing in our power and living in our power is amazing, and it's huge. And I love that you've included so much pleasure and kink and tantra in your journey there, because mine was very similar.
Yeah, it's interesting because when you look at like a healing stage as well, in regards to like how to heal from trauma, abuse, etc., there's always someone says, "Oh, breathwork was like the turning point, or tantra was the turning point, or yoga was it, or weightlifting." And ultimately, it's you kind of like go through all of the stages to actually really heal, because it's the body, mind, and soul. But for everyone, there's like one point where it's like it feels like that was it, but it's actually the whole journey of it.
It's many
So
points all together.
yes,
Curious question, what was your first point or gateway? And
weightlifting. And this is why I'm so passionate about weightlifting. Like when I started to build muscle mass, when it was my biceps was the first thing that it was growing, I'm like, I feel strong. I feel
yeah,
confident. I can protect myself. So, and this is how I got like, and then through fitness, building muscle mass, you start to eat healthier. So you get more energy, you start to look after your mindset, your healthier lifestyle changes. And then all of a sudden, like you drink less, you look what you're eating, the way you move your body, and all of that helps your libido. So you start to feel more pleasure, you attract the right people. So it all started building up from there. So yeah, weightlifting was my turning point.
Oh, I love that so much. Like, I have been a gym girly since I was 15 years old. And, I've also competed in bodybuilding and stuff. So I love that so much. I'm so here for the weightlifting. And yes, all of the knock-on effects. Like it it's a holistic approach, and like the whole body, whole system approach. And it does that one thing does lead to impacts on all the other. So I would love for you to share with us a little bit, a sort of specific part of your journey. As I mentioned to you when I reached out to you, I've just re-released one of my programs, which is called the Sensual Mother. And, that was a program I developed based on my own mess and medicine of coming back into my body and my pleasure and my sensuality and my sexual energy post-motherhood. And I became a mum very young, when I was 18. And I definitely, for me, based a lot of my adult identity as mother. And so, my whole journey through leaving DV and sacred sexuality and Tantra and kink and BDSM and then sex and relationship coaching and then counseling, like just the whole journey was this big epic unfolding of me just continually coming back home to me. And as I was re-releasing it, I was like, you know what, I want to get a few women who are in the space, in the sexuality space of professionals and expertise, and get them to speak as well about their own journey as a mother, post children, and in motherhood, their own journey of continually reconnecting back to their body and that finding their pleasure and refining their pleasure and connecting to their sexual energy. So I reached out to you, obviously, like pleasure toy queen. Of course, I reached out to you because I would love for you to share. How many children do you have?
I've got 2 children. They're both under 10, a girl and a boy. I basically left the DV situation when I was pregnant with a second, and I have been basically a single mom since, and almost most of the time full time. So I know how it is to have, being pregnant and a toddler, then by myself, living in a different country without family support or financial support, and then starting my own business. And so I've been through quite a lot in this regards, but I wouldn't change it for the world. And I am loving every minute of it. And I've basically taken them along because it all happened, like my journey, me breathing again and like finding myself and looking for myself, or just embracing myself again, when I had this 1-bedroom apartment right next to a beautiful lake and left the DV situation. Even though I was pregnant, had a toddler, didn't know what's going to happen and how it's going to happen, I started breathing again. And they have been now with me on that journey, like from the start, basically. And the best I could do and have done is, first of all, breaking out of that situation, because now they're growing up in a healthy environment, but also seeing that mom is making herself a priority. So what I'm teaching is that you need to look after yourself. So if I'm just telling them, you need to look after yourself, you need to make yourself a priority, but I'm not making myself a priority, then my actions don't match what I'm actually teaching or trying to say. And kids are like little sponges. They see your actions, they notice that. And when I started my weightlifting, because I couldn't afford a gym, or where am I going to drop off the kids to go to the gym and pay for a gym? So I started at home. And how do you do that when you have got like a baby and a toddler? Well, you make the time and you put the babies right now asleep for half an hour, just put it down. A toddler is happy to just join in, and you do some yoga stretches, or you do some dumbbells, or you do some funny movements that they enjoy, and get them involved, and they're loving it. So
Wow.
yeah.
And that's setting the best example. So when you said, you were living by this lake and you just left and you had a toddler and you were pregnant and you're alone in this country with no family support, like, to me, I'm hearing that and I'm like, that sounds really scary. That sounds terrifying. The amount of unknown, like, that would have been spread out before you, and, feeling quite alone too. How was that for you?
It was frightening on one hand, but on the other hand, I was by myself. I was in charge. I was taking control, and that felt empowering. I felt empowered because I knew, whatever I'm going to do now, at least I don't have anyone controlling me. So I'm now in control. I can make things things will be better than staying there. So it will be better. I will make things work. And when I put my mind to it, and this is also when I started my own business, as soon as I realized the benefits of weightlifting and my libido and the healthier lifestyle, as soon as that happened, I started sharing. I felt a lot of healing as well in sharing my journey, talking about it and being like, hey, I've just started this. This is amazing. Makes me feel good. You should try that too. So just that started to help me as well. Pleasure-wise, it wasn't really that I was fixated on like, self-pleasure, things like that. I wasn't there yet at that stage. For me, it was really more finding pleasure in life and pleasure in like coming home to my body of feeling good about myself. So weightlifting, healthy lifestyle to just really feel strong and confident. And with my confidence and the healthier lifestyle, I then made time for more like sexual pleasure.
Yeah. I was going to ask, like, how did the next part of your journey go from the weightlifting and, like you said, finding the pleasure in taking care of yourself, finding the pleasure in creating time for yourself? How did that lead into sexual pleasure and connecting to your sexual energy?
The interesting part with that was I had like a couple hookups then after that, but nothing really serious because everything that happened afterwards, it kind of like felt like I'm not there yet. I'm not ready to actually be intimate and let myself go. And I was also not attracting the right kind of people straight away. That's what usually happens after DV. You sometimes attract something similar, but then this time you actually notice the red flags and you're like, hang on a second, I'm not gonna go down there again. It kind of like put me off, but also I didn't really have the capacity to actually say to someone like my grandparents, here, have the kids. I'm going out on a date. So how am I gonna do that?
Yeah.
So basically life kind of pushed me into the direction of how about you explore yourself and your own body? So to actually know, and I felt like that because I've been a swinger. We were swingers on and off. So he was a
Yeah.
swinger when we got together, and it was automatically like you're a swinger now. Bisexual. So we had like threesomes, group sex, and like lots of experiences. I got cheated on and stuff like that. And when I was by myself, I'm like, am I actually really a swinger, or did I do that only for him? Like, am I actually really bisexual, or was that also just to please him? So I had like all these questions out of the sudden popping up, and I'm like, okay, I need to explore that. So went by myself to swinger parties, then to kink parties, and just to like step by step, slowly to actually explore what actually my likes are and where my boundaries lay. And because I wasn't able to really go deep with someone else, I took that time to explore my own body and started self-pleasuring.
Yeah. No, I love that. You took that time to explore yourself, to reconnect to yourself and rediscover yourself in so many different areas. I love that you still went to parties by yourself. With many of the women that I work with who are mothers, I often encourage them that, like, each time you have a child, you're a new person, you're a new woman, you're a new body. And we've got to take that time to explore ourselves again. I mean, and yours was huge. Not only had you had another child and become a mom of two, but you'd also left this, like, there was this major life change and you'd left that relationship. So you were massively exploring yourself again and like, well, who am I and what do I like? So that's beautiful. And that led you to the toys, did it?
Yes, it did lead me to the toys. So when I moved then from South Australia to Queensland, with my own business as a PT and nutrition coach, then kind of like changed because COVID hit. It was really hard to like really make a good effort business with that kind of like PT because like you can't really do that and you need to go online. Um, and then I found OnlyFans. And I'm like, oh, I'm always open-minded, so let's give this a go. I mean, I'm flexing. I'm doing that for free on Instagram, so why not do that on OnlyFans? Quickly progressed. And because I'm doing solo, I'm just by myself, but I always had like a little bit of sex toys too. So my friend always said, you should do something with sex toys because you're always talking about them really openly. I'm that friend in the friends group who's just, oh yeah, I had this new sex toy. And then you've got one of the friends that are like, oh my God, she's starting out talking about sex again. Like, and I'm just like, so always been open-minded. And then I thought, why not actually review them and, reach out to some companies, get some more. And then through that, it started to become an self-exploration. I love exploring. I live through experiences. I learn through experiences. I like to try out new things, explore. And that was the perfect opportunity because I can do that from home. I can do that, now when the kids are at school, I've got my own time to explore toys, to review them, and that's when that loop kind of started to get closer of this is your path. Now embrace it.
Yeah, like this is your sweet spot. This is
Yeah.
um and 100%. I have to just highlight what you said about exploring. Like I feel exactly the same way. I love exploring. It's like there is never a limit to how much we can explore. And there's so much growth there. And there's so much
Yes.
like play, right? Like whether it's with yourself, with a toy, or with a lover, there's so much play and exploration available. And I'm frequently encouraging women to continue that exploration of their body, of their sexual energy, of their sensuality. It's like, well, explore what turns you on today, because next week it might be something different. Next week you might be in a different energetic state. Your mood might be different. Or next week, the environment around you might be different, whether the kids are there or not. So it's like explore how to connect to your sexual energy today. Explore how your body wants to receive pleasure today, and continue that ongoing exploration every single day. So I love.
And I love how I've got a complete different approach to my mom, for example. So I grew up with being shamed for my sexual exploration because I had a sex diary with my first boyfriend. We were exploring and I was writing about it. She found that diary, read it. I came home, it got flying next to my head and I got slut shamed and things like that. So, and then these things are not happening in this house and there's no key locks and otherwise it was not talked about or was shamed. Where here in my household now, it's a complete different approach. My kids know I review toys, like grown-up toys, because I'm getting parcels all the time. They were curious, like, what's in that parcel? And what's in your cupboards? Because I've got two big chest cupboards.
Have they seen them at
They
times?
have seen toys, yeah. So I mean, unless it's something really big, intimidating, I'm like, don't open this. So they know there are rules around my room and stuff, but discrete toys, there is a toy that looked like a hammer. So I knew that was in the mail. So I said, all right, this time you can open it with me. And then they open it up and they're like, oh, it's a hammer. And I'm like, yeah, it's a special hammer. And they're like, okay, what does it do this time? And then they see a button and then they press a button and they're like, ah. But I explain it as they make mummies or daddies or grown up feel good. So you can place it on your body and it maybe vibrates or it makes these air pulls. And they're like, oh, doesn't feel bad. Mommy, turn around. I'm going to give you a back massage.
Yes, 100%.
So making it not a shameful thing, not hiding it, not feeling embarrassed about it, but rather embracing it in age-appropriate ways of saying look, this is a toy that makes me feel good. Because I remember thinking back, I used a Happy Meal Smurf when I was young as a kid that had a pull string and then you pull it up and then it vibrated. And I pressed that against me, not knowing what I was doing. And I mean, it starts early these days. So
Really, yeah. I had similar stuff as well, where now that we're mothers and where we've been on this journey to connect to our sexuality and our sexual energy and our pleasure, I look back and I'm like, I was not raised that way either. These things weren't talked about. And the beauty as well of our going on our journey is that what you've highlighted there is we get to be the difference and the change that we want to see in the world with our children. My eldest child is 14 and she's my daughter. And she has come to me with questions all about, she's just started this relationship with, it's her first sort of physical relationship with a girlfriend. And she's come to me, I have full permission, by the way, to speak about this. I've talked to her about this. she comes to me and asks about fingering and squirting, and it feels like this. Does something feel wrong? And my girlfriend, wants to make me come, and I don't know how to tell her that. And like, it's amazing to be able to have these conversations with my daughter where I'm like, that would never have happened growing up. I had no one to talk to. And how beautiful that we get to be that change, whether it's making the time to work out at home while the kids are running around or playing with us, from that where it's showing them that we're prioritizing our self-care and our own pleasure of looking after ourselves, or teaching them about, well, these are my adult toys and mommy likes to play with them, they make mommy feel good. Or talking, this will come for you one day too, talking to a teenager and being like, well, this can feel good, or this can feel good, or it's up to you to explore that, and inviting them to go and continually explore their bodies and then communicate that to their partners and lovers. Like, amazing. So
Yeah,
amazing.
so in the core, self-love and pleasure, this is why my business is called Self-Love Pleasure in one word, because that's basically the core that I'm standing for. That's my ultimate passion, because I believe like our self-love is the foundation of our happiest, most successful, most pleasurable life. So I want to experience as much deeper self-love and pleasure as I can, but also teach them along the way, and obviously like empower and inspire everyone else around me. And as you just said, it's not just pleasure toys that bring us pleasure and self-love or self-pleasure. It's that weightlifting as well. It's that having these conversations, this quality time. I mean, there's a range of how we can experience deeper self-love and pleasure. And like you just said, with your daughter coming to you and having that conversation and like opening up to you, my daughter came to me as well and opened up and said like, I've got this crush and this and this, and I'm like, oh, I feel so honored that you share that with me. Like, I would have never shared that with my mom. Like, the reaction would have been so different. But she's coming to me and she's talking about it. And then, mom, like, how do I practice kissing? And like, just like these things. And I'm like, this is so cute.
Yeah.
And being able to make it not weird as well, that it's like it's okay that you come to me, and as much as I can help you, I will help you, and I will tell you when you've got questions. And it's just like really like it was so beautiful. And she came up with a story about a throuple. So she's very, very creative, and she wrote a story about a boy falling in love with two girls and they were a happy throuple. And she asked me recently, why can't four people get married? And it's like also about body confidence. Like I walk around naked, and it's not like, oh yeah, no, I need to hide my body. And they also know how I've looked with very saggy mom boobs. And now after my boob lift, and I talked to them about it as well and said, look, mommy's gonna get a boob lift, not because mommy hates her body and her saggy mom boobs, but she feels like treating them. They're still young and they deserve to be a little bit lifted for a little bit longer. So
It's like, if I want this for my body, I get to have that a little, like, yeah. No, that's beautiful. 100%. I'm completely on board with all of that. We're very, very similar. And for all of the mamas watching this is, I suppose, your invitation to reflect on how your own connection to your own self-love and pleasure, how that is very much going to be seen and witnessed and modeled by your children. And I love how Patricia said, having those conversations, it doesn't have to be awkward. For some people watching this, you may find those conversations with your children about pleasure or toys or their body, and especially with teenagers, you may find those uncomfortable. And my invitation is actually like, they can totally just voice that to a teen and be like, oh, I feel a little uncomfortable talking to you about this because this is new for me and I didn't have this growing up. And let's dive into it together and let's create some some empowerment and some connection to ourselves. So
yes.
and yeah, as you said, it starts with literally the way that we be, whether it's walking around naked and just allowing that complete embracing of ourselves, or explaining to them about the things that we're doing to our body or the things that we're doing for ourselves, having those really open conversations.
Yeah, I think the best you can do for teaching your children about self-love and pleasure is really stepping up your own self-love and pleasure game. The more
Yes.
you are stepping into that, the more you will just teach it by being that role model, that example, that their normality, because that's what they're looking up to. They're like, okay, this is how mommy treated herself. Like my daughter knows I said, I'm not going to enter into a new relationship if he's not treating me like a queen. So, and I think not recently, but a few months ago, I had a date and came back home and she's like, how was your date? And I said, oh, it was okay. This is this. And she said, well, it doesn't sound like he's treating you like a queen. So next. I'm like, okay. So just like that little bit of a reminder, she's like listening what I'm saying, and she's soaking it up, and she knows we've got self-worth and we're not accepting less.
She was so confident in you too that you would just be like, thank you, next.
Yeah.
Like, she was solid. She's like, I know where my mom's at on this. I love that. That's really cool. So do you have any toys that you recommend, especially for mamas who are reconnecting to their bodies for the first time? It could be postpartum, or it could be like 5 years down the track. It could be 10 years down the track. It could be like grandmother level. That journey of motherhood is forever. So do you have any toys that you recommend, or any top picks or favorites, since you have over 250?
So I get this question so often about what's the best toy for a woman or for a man. I can't really tell you like the best, because we all have different preferences and likes and dislikes. One likes the AirPods, the other one likes strong vibrations. For example, I'm not a huge fan on the big ones because they're just overstimulating me. It's like too big of an area. But I do have a couple, like my personal top threes, I would say. Depending on the pleasure that I want to experience, and this is something that I can totally recommend, is take your expectations off the table of like experiencing an orgasm, but take it more as an exploration, as a journey of like, I like that. Oh, I didn't know. And I'll try something different and just see where it feels, how it feels, start taking note, and then go from there and be like, okay, I've realized I like this or I like that feature. So go deeper in exploring. The first thing I want to make sure is that you choosing something that's body safe. So make sure it's body safe material, that you know that how to clean it, and that you use a good quality lube with it as well, because that makes it just so much better. But one of my first go-tos is a Lelo, the Lelo Siler. That is like a air pulse pressure one. It got a bit of an oval opening just because that really sits beautifully around my clitoris area. So I like that one instead of like these small round ones. It's my go-to. Like, it's never disappointed me unless I forgot to charge it. The other one that I like, my favorite rabbit vibrator, if you like internal with external stimulation at the same time, is the Exotic California Dreaming Sonoma. It got 3 little dots on the external that vibrates, and it got like a thrusting internal. I can just put that in and I have like hands-free, and I'm like, okay.
Oh, I love that. You're like hands-free.
Yeah, I'm taking myself now into like Pleasureland. And then the other one that I find interesting is, especially when you're single, a single mom, and you want to have something that feels similar to being eaten out. That toy is called the Smart Empowered Queen. It could have been my toy. It's also from Exotics, and it's got a pump and a tongue, a silicone tongue. So you can use it. It pumps up your vulva a little bit, and you get more engorged, more blood flow through that, and then you start that tongue as well with lots of lube, and it feels like the best oral. You're getting eaten out, and I'm just like, okay, here we go. So these are like my top 3, but they're not everyone's cup of tea, so it really depends on your preferences.
I really like it because you actually listed all sorts of different types of stimulation, from from the suction action to the internal stimulation to the vibrations on the clit. Like, there are so many different ways of stimulating your vulva and your entire pleasure anatomy. And you've listed so many beautiful ways there. So I reckon in the comments below, we'll put like a link.
I have a website with my favorites, and about like 10 or 12 favorites, because as you just mentioned, it really depends for me what kind of mood I'm on. I've got also discrete toys that I love. for taking out that look like jewelry, or a favorite toy for butt play, a favorite toy for big toys play. So because I love exploring and I love so many things, I don't have just one. But yeah,
great. Well, we will link that in the comment section below, because I think so many people will find that really useful. And as you said, like right at the start, where you're like, well, everyone likes something different, you know, some people like a cup of tea and some people like a cup of coffee, and the link to your favorites could help give them some ideas and inspiration of the different types of stimulation that they can then start exploring, releasing that goal of orgasm or outcome. The only outcome is, ooh, what can I learn about myself here? What does this feel like? What's the sensation? Where do I feel it? Do I like it? And yeah, really.
That's the beauty for my reviews as well, because especially like the favorites toys, I always give an explanation why I personally love it, what I have experienced with it. So if someone can be like, oh, I relate to that, or I want to have that feeling, then they can go along with it. And I also honestly say when a toy is like not working for me, it's not working because blah, 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 blah. So if someone else then says, oh, but that would work for me, then they also know. Plus there are also discount codes that you can use to save. So
Yes, I love that. That is like a treasure trove of knowledge that so many women watching this will be able to get so much out of. So we'll definitely, can you tell us a little bit more about where they can access your pleasure toy reviews?
you can access all of that on my website, selflovepleasure.com.
Beautiful. We'll make sure that that's linked in there. Yeah, that's exciting. So currently, you've got the 2 kids. They're still under 10 though, hey? And
Yes.
you're now that they're at school, you're really enjoying that time to yourself and um more exploration, and you're still reviewing toys. Are you still creating on OnlyFans?
Yes, yes, yes. So I've got OnlyFans, Fansly, and Lawyer Fans.
Yeah.
It really depends on what kind of content you want, because I'm currently doing a training to become a professional dominatrix as well. So I started my Lawyer Fans for that, although you can still access all my videos on my video store on Lawyer Fans as well. So it all kind of like fits together. I get a toy, I review it by making a video of it. So if you are someone who wants to actually see how the toy actually really works in real life, you can see the demonstration on my OnlyFans. But then I also teach about the toys, or for example, lubricants and pleasure and self-love within my pleasure and toys school. So there are home workouts, nutrition education, what's important when you choose your lubricant, or butt toys or clamps or pumps, and like all of that's education, but then also have the reviews. So it's all coming together. It really depends on like where you want to be and what you want. So
Yeah, it's almost like different levels of access or different.
yes, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. So your pleasure school,
Yeah.
they can all find that on your website too.
Yeah, Pleasure and Toys School is currently on Patreon, but you can access that through my website on Self Love Pleasure.
Cool. I love a good old Patreon.
Mm.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for jumping on and sharing. Before we wrap it up, if you could share one message or one piece of advice or just one last thing for any mother who is wanting to explore her self-love and pleasure, what would it be?
That's I know where you're coming from, that you might feel guilt and shame for making yourself a priority, but believe me, making yourself a priority is really what's needed to fill up your own cup, to live by example. You cannot look after your children if you are not looking after yourself first. And you don't need to feel guilty or shame around that. Start looking after yourself. And the happier you are, the more you look after yourself, the happier your children will be as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Patricia.
Thanks for having me.
Having you on, and anybody who wants to go and head over to check out the Pleasure Toys School or check out any of the reviews, check out all of the other links that are available for all the other different demonstrations. We will have all those links available just below. And thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.